Hey there! So I'm a little overdue if I'm going to try and keep it every 2 weeks, and tomorrow I go up north to see my aunt and uncle and get ready for Yarndale, which is going to be a whole weekend of awesome. So I'm trying to squeeze in a quick episode now so that I'm not trying to do everything, including all the Yarndale-ness, in one go. Another thing that I have to remember is that last episode was technically my podiversary, or podcastiversary, depending on your choice of name. But yeah, I started the podcast back in September 2014, and I hadn't really clocked it, but then I was looking at some dates or something, I don't remember why I found out, but anyway, I noticed that last episode was almost, I think it was just over a year since I'd started podcasting. Crazy! Now admittedly, in that time I have had a few gaps of several months, particularly over the winter and over the summer. So I'm only on episode 25, rather than something like 52, or for some people 200 and something crazy, because they've been going for quite a while. But, yay! Podcastiversary! So that's kind of cool. I've kept this going, more or less, for a year. So in foes and whips, I have 2 foes and 1 whip. That's pretty good kind of balance, really. So the first foe I can show you guys is inside this box! Yeah, no, I'm not actually going to make you just look at the box. So the first project is in a box because it's all wrapped up and ready to be given as a present. However, I've decided to just get it back out again and show you guys because I haven't got around to giving it to the recipient yet. So the first half you guys have already seen, and that's the hat and booties that I showed last episode. So cute! What I didn't have finished then was the baby grow, effectively, to go with it, little wrong pursuit or whatever it's called, and that is ready now. Woo! So it's got a cute little duplicate stitch dinosaur on the front, whether you call that a triceratops or was it an allosaur? Oh, I can't remember. Anyway, I call it a triceratops. And it has fasteners along the back and fasteners down the crotch, groin, I don't know if there's a better way to refer to that, inside leg maybe. So hopefully it'll be okay for them to get it on and off baby. I did a size 3 month, which is good because the baby's already 1 month old, and hopefully by the time I actually get it over to them it will still fit. We'll see. But I am super proud of this. It took a lot of love, a lot of perseverance to do. Actually, the worst bit was the poppers, the studs, whatever they're called. They just required the most perseverance, shall we say. So I feel like this is definitely a gift of love. And then these are matching. They're a different colour, but it's the same yarn as the body's made out of, and then the laces are the same yarn as the dinosaur, so it's a matching set. Like super cute. And of course I had to get some orange in there, didn't I? Because, you know, it wouldn't be James if it didn't have orange. You can obviously change that to something that actually makes grammatical sense. FO number 2 is the heliocentric hat. So, I was here last time I showed it to you guys, which is pretty much just before you start doing the decreases for the crown. And speaking of the crown, check that out. Is that not just gorgeous design? So that's all the decreases and everything all matched in there, along with this amazing design, which is quite obviously the sun at the centre of the solar system. So there we go, there is Sol. And it's very cool, so you can now surreptitiously see my name across the hat, but it actually is also the planets. And if I turn this one the other way around, because this is a double knit hat, by the double knit master, who is Sockmatician. There is also Pluto there, for those of you like me who still hold on to the hopes that Pluto will be reinstated officially as a planet once more. Still got the gorgeous detailing, but obviously in reverse colours, but the letters are all still the right way around for reading, but my name goes backwards. So it's Smash instead of James. And the whole issue of trying on a hat on a podcast means that your hair gets absolutely trashed, but I love it. I think it's awesome. So very happy with this. Thank you again, Nathan, for tweaking your awesome design so that it had a little A in it as well, so it spelled out my name. And the heliocentric is now online, I believe. It's now been uploaded to Ravelry. It hadn't when I started, but I think he has now done it. So if you check the show notes, there'll be a link to the pattern or a note going, whoops, no, not yet. But I'm pretty sure it is up on Ravelry now, so you can make this as well yourself. Good timing, Nathan. And he's also actually brought out his gilt sock pattern as well recently, so there's a couple of his patterns I believe that have gone up. And I'm still desperately in love with the piano curve one. So yeah, so I have taken the stitch marker off. This is now a faux, and it's good to go. And it is we're just kind of starting autumn over here. So today's a lovely sunny day, but it's still chilly out. And we've had the autumnal equinox, didn't we? What was it, the 23rd, I think it was. So we're now working our way towards winter. My whip for this episode is the amazing lace shawl that is the Even Star. Now, I only even got this pattern because of Ellie and Dave over at FO and Dye, and they well, there's two reasons. The Even Star is part of a kind of a informal, not really a knit along so much as a group knit, that those of us who are going to Dave and Ellie's ceremonies next year are we're all doing an Even Star. And then Dave challenged me to get it done as part of their shawl cowl, which ends at the end of this month, so in a few days. And there is Yarndale between now and then. So the likelihood of me actually managing to finish this in time for that is pretty low. But it's the only whip I've got on the go at the moment. It's just I've got a whole load of other stuff happening life-wise. And this thing is like full on. It takes about a week. And I have not been knitting it full on because I just haven't. I've been doing too many other things as well. But I can show you where I've got to, and I am pretty chuffed with this so far. So here we go. This is the Even Star shawl so far. So it is a paid for pattern on Ravelry. It's not one of the cheapest ones, but it's not stupidly expensive either. And for this gorgeous design, you kind of think, yeah, it's going to be worth it. Now, obviously, this is not blocked or anything. What I've done is I've put it onto one of my super long cables, my 2 meter Knit Pro cables, so that I can try and stuff more cable into the outside to stretch it out a little bit and hold it up like this with some sort of shape to show you, so you can kind of see some of the lace patterning going on, but it's not super clear. So if I kind of hold it up a bit and move it around, you can sort of see roughly what's going on. There is I'm in the sort of the third section, which is the second chart at the moment, which is this bit, and I'm about a third of the way through that second chart. There's then another slightly bigger chart and then a border, and of course it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger every time because it's a circular shawl. It's supposed to be about 5 feet across when you finish, but that is stretched out, so maybe that's That's not too bad, not too far away. Yeah, not likely. Plus my gauge is a little small compared to the gauge swatch, so mine probably won't be a full 5 foot across. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, so I'm going to get as much of this as I can done for the shawl cowl, and I shall post it just going, you know, no, it didn't happen, what a surprise, or something similar, unless for some reason I end up, say, stranded in my car all weekend and have to just knit on this because I have nothing else to do. But I really hope that's not what happens, because I'm rather looking forward to Yarndale and meeting loads of people. If you're going, do check out, there's a Yarndale Instagram meetup. So if you guys are on Instagram, you can either see it on my profile or using the hashtag YarndaleIG meetup, but both on the Saturday and the Sunday lunchtime, outside the front of the venue. I can't remember what it's called now. There's a whole load of people that all kind of meet up and chill out, and my plan is to meet up with them on both days and have lunch or something there, have a little snack. And it's an open deal for just anybody to come along, so they've said share it far and wide, and so obviously I'm sharing it here as well, off of Instagram, to try and get as many people to come, so we can all chill out and just have a big hangout and be sociable. If you are on Instagram, then go and check the hashtag out and do some following, because there's some awesome people I met there last year who I'll be hopefully seeing again. So the yarn for the Even Star is a gorgeous purple, and it is Drops Lace, which is 30% alpaca, no, 70% alpaca, 30% silk. So it is absolutely gorgeous, particularly on the wrong side where you just get all those pearl bumps just making this lovely smooth texture. Whereas on the right side at the moment, particularly because I haven't stretched out the lace, not so much. It's still super, super soft, but it's not like, oh my gosh, I could just pet this. After my FO and whips comes Stash Love. I have one skein to show you this episode. However, it is not really stash in the sense that it is spoken for already, so it's not going into my stash, and also it's not for me. And I didn't buy it either. But it's gorgeous, so I thought I'd show you it anyway. So this is a absolutely beautiful skein of yarn, and it has these amazing colours in it with deep sort of maroony reds, but then that goes through scarlets, pinks, actually some purples. There's this, you can see some purples and whites in there as well. And then there is the sort of streak of greeny blue running through, so that goes from quite a dark turquoise, maybe teal, that kind of thing, through bluey greens, all the kind of bluey greens you might look for, and loads of variegation in tone as well. It's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, look at all of the variegation in tones in there, and that's carried on all the way through the skein here. So it's lots of kind of like watery sea blues and that slightly greeny blue. Then you've got the actual greens themselves, grass green, forest green, through into yellows. So we've got kind of like a corn yellow, almost slightly light brown tint to it where it mixes with the green. Then you've got much more of a brown tint where there's some red mixed in as well. I mean, look at all of these colours. Again, look at all of that happening. Isn't that amazing? Those different shades going on in that section there. Then through into more blue and yellow, and then a bit more just plain yellow and reddy pinks happening in other sections. So it looks like maybe it's kind of a red, blue and yellow mix, but the blue and yellow have really been allowed to mix to create quite a nice green section. Anyway, this is by Dibadu. It's German. Well, it's from Germany because this was sent to me by my friend Kati. She bought 2 skeins of yarn and she sent me one to make her something with, and then she's making me something out of the other. So I've not had to buy any of the yarn, but I do have to knit something out of this, and it's going to be a secret. So you won't necessarily see me knitting this on the podcast because I won't be able to show it. But at some point this will start getting turned into a present to send back to Kati, and then I will certainly photograph it. I may remember to try and film a section before I post it off, but the likelihood of that isn't particularly high, should we say. So I'm just having a look to see what it says. It just says hand dyed by Dibadu, so I'm guessing that's the name of a dyer. That's the tag logo there. And it says 125 grams, 100% wool, so that's 387 meters in total. It's 310 meters per 100 grams. And it's sort of I guess a DK weight, because it's saying needles 3 to 4 mil. And I'm reading all of that in German, guys. Look at me. Yeah, check me out. I'm great. Doesn't give a particular... It says Unicum 093, so I'm guessing that means it's one of a kind, number 93. Other than that, I couldn't tell you much more, but it's gorgeous, and I'm going to have to come up with something to make with this. So if you have ideas as to what you think this would look really good as, let me know. I'll tell you what I'll do, in fact, is I will undo the skein, so you can all see the colour variation and how it works in this, how the variegation works in this yarn. So it's like that. Let's pull it back a bit. So this is the really red side, then we've got patches of whitey pink, going through into the colours of yellow and green, or yellow and blue rather, to make the yellows, then the greens, then the blue, bit of yellow again, back into the reddy pinks with bits of yellow, back into the red. So that's how it's been dyed up. And I'm trying to think what would show off this kind of yarn really nicely. So ideas on a postcard, please, to help me out here, because I have a hard enough time picking patterns that I like to go with yarn, never mind picking patterns that someone else will like to go with a yarn. And I know that that's not what's going to be important for Kati. I know it's going to be more about the fact that I will have made something and I spent time and love on it, and I'll send it over and all of this. But it would be really nice to make something that showcases this gorgeous, gorgeous yarn that she's bought. So if you do have any ideas, do please stick a suggestion in the comments, either on YouTube or Ravelry or wherever you're watching this, or you can pop me a message on Ravelry through my user profile, DancingGeek. I do have one more bit of stash enhancement to show you guys. And that is the beautiful, beautiful Lanitium Ex Machina yarn that I am stealing from the giveaway. I'm not really stealing. She said she'd send me some, and some to do as a giveaway on the podcast. So I'm keeping this one. I did sort of say maybe, probably this, and I've decided, yeah, this is the one I'm going to keep. It is so, so beautiful. It's called Shire. It's 80/20 merino nylon, so it's going to be a really lovely, it's high twist, so it'll be a really lovely sock yarn. And it is 100 grams, 400 yards, so it's going to make a pair of socks easily, and I'll have loads spare to put in my sort of little, what are they called? Odds and ends, I can't remember what they're called. Mini skeins. There we go, excuse me. So we go in my little mini skeins collection, which is growing. I've been resisting doing something like a sock blanket, mini skein sock blanket or something like that, just because my natural immediate response is that the juxtaposition of all these different patterns and colours is actually a bit much for me. I don't really like it being quite so crazy, but I have kind of thought, well, maybe if I knit up a load of squares, this doesn't mean I have to do a load of seaming afterwards, but if I knit up a load of squares or what have you, or like hexi puffs or hexi flats, but I do have a lot of stuffing and I'm not making a lot of toys, so maybe Hexie Puffs would be a good way to go. Then I could sort of start to try and arrange them and then join them together. And I know with the Hexie Puff, you only join the corners, you don't do all the way down the side. So that could be interesting. But I don't know for the moment. For the moment, I'm just thinking this is beautiful yarn by Lanitium Ex Machina. And the other 3 skeins, I do have them here. I will be doing the giveaway for these, I promise. But it's not happening this episode. Several reasons, all of which are boring, none of which I need to tell you about. So, just to tease you a little bit more, here are the 3 glitter sock yarns that I'm going to be giving away. So they are, from top to bottom, Star Trek Into Darkness, yes, geeky all the way around. Lothlorien, oh, check out the different shades in there. And number 3 is Warlock. So there's a definite geeky theme to all of them. Brain, come on. But those are all different ones. So we've got a couple of Tolkien ones, Star Wars, and a general kind of... I'm kind of thinking of it as Dungeons and Dragons because I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons at the moment. So Warlock to me reminds me of Dungeons and Dragons, but it's not limited just to that, obviously. So it's gorgeous. I haven't decided how it's going to work yet, what have you. I know roughly what it's going to involve, but for the moment I'm just teasing you all with these, and I'll do the giveaway as soon as everything has finished being organised for it. I promise! My last bit of stash enhancement is again not really stash enhancement. Ugh, what can you do? Trust me, the next episode is going to be post Yarndale. I imagine there's going to be a fair amount of stash enhancement to show. But for this episode, it is the fact that I went a little bit crazy on the Sockmatician's patterns. I watched his episodes, I don't know if it's the last one or the one before now actually, because I've kind of lost track of how many he's done since I noted it. But he did do he is doing a knit along, and for his knit along he did a voucher. So if you go and check out the Sockmatician podcast on YouTube, Sockmatician, there'll be a link, but it is what it sounds like. Then you can get a voucher code which gives you something ridiculous like 50% off his patterns. Just ridiculous, yeah? So I may have then gone and bought like all of the ones that I favorited and just went, yeah. So I'm very happy because I have a whole load of his patterns, including the piano number 1, which I have been geeking out over for several weeks now. But yeah, so totally worth checking out, and I have a bunch of his patterns. Yeah, I haven't printed anything out to show you guys, but as always, you can go and check out my profile on Ravelry if you're really interested. Or pop me a comment, send me a message, who knows. I might even have bothered to list them all in the show notes, depending on just how tired I was when I finally finished uploading this. So I'm whizzing along into the community section. I say whizzing along, I have no idea how long I've been talking for, but I'm hoping that I'm not taking too long over this because I've got so much to get done, including as much of that even star as possible. Anyway, as I said, I'm whizzing along, tangent, into the community section, and the first thing I'm going to do is to jump back into the list of questions that Topher sent in. Hi Topher! He wrote a list of 10 questions and then added another one on the end whilst I've been answering them, because he suggested doing one per episode, and I have been, which means it takes a while because I'm not super quick at putting up episodes. So question 5 is, what sound or noise do you love? Now, being of a particular inclination in my thinking, there is one place I go to immediately that I had to particularly avoid with the previous questions, such as what turns you on and off. So I'm going to just leave that one parked and try and work my way back into the realm of family-friendly viewing. I'm actually quite picky about sounds and noises. I quite enjoy stillness and quiet. So when I'm home alone, I don't tend to have anything on as background noise. Now, part of this is it's extra stimulation, and that I can't necessarily always filter it out. It's that kind of, I'm not autistic, but there's some of those traits that definitely sort of ring a bell in that kind of way. And that kind of thing, we're trying to filter out noise and what have you, is often one for me. It makes it very difficult to hold a conversation in a noisy area, because I really struggle to hear what's being said, to differentiate the sound of the person's voice from background noise. So I often resort to things like lip reading and stuff at the same time. I can't actually properly lip read, but I definitely have some skill. I know this because I'll sometimes completely throw my other half when he's watching TV with headphones on, and then I'll talk to him about what they're saying. So some stuff I can definitely lip read, but I think probably you can. I'm not sure I'm particularly special in that skill. But anyway, yeah, so I tend to love quiet. But other noises that I do really like, there's one you might be able to hear at the moment, which is the grandfather clock ticking away. I do have a few grandfather clocks or ticking clocks in the house. And they remind me of family homes growing up, so my grandparents' house, my parents' house. So it's quite comforting in that sense. The sounds of being out among trees, again, because of the connection with being out among trees, basically. So the wind going through the leaves, birds chittering in the trees, walking over dry leaves, that kind of thing. Oh yeah, autumn. So it's that kind of being out in nature, waves against the shore, all that kind of stuff. Your sounds of nature are going to get me every time. Just peace, tranquility. Awesome. On the flip side to that, anything with a good beat, if I'm in a dancing mood, is absolutely awesome. And it doesn't even have to be a regular beat, it can be a bit crazy. But anything that I can just dance along or sing to, I am going to be, if I'm in a party mood, is awesome. So maybe not your ultra heavy thrash metal. Your really whiny country music is a little bit difficult. Or your really obscure kind of trance or electronica. Kind of your fringe music I'd struggle with. But actually, sort of, you know, your rock, your pop, your jazz, your basic staples of music across quite a broad spectrum, I'm going to be pretty okay with. Because so long as I can bounce along to it in my little way, then I'm going to be a happy bunny. But I have to be in a party mood. So for the majority of the times, the more tranquil noises are more my thing. Another question that I received was from Sockmatician himself on the podcast. Hi Nathan! Who asked about my maths side and my dance side, and how I kind of got to where I am, I guess, to kind of paraphrase slightly. And yeah, it's true that I studied maths for something ridiculous like 17, 18 years. From like when you first start learning to when I finished my degree in maths. And yes, and he asked about, actually what was interesting, he said, did I just kind of fall into dance or get sidetracked by dance? And to be honest, I kind of fallen into / been sidetracked by everything that I've done. If I've ever done anything, I just kind of happened into it. I've never been someone that knew what they wanted and went, right, this is how I'm going to get there, and charged ahead. I've always just been like, oh, this is interesting. Oh, this is interesting. Oh, look, I've got a degree now. Oh, no, look, someone's paying me to do this now. Isn't that nice? But yeah, my initial path was much more, I guess, traditional, in the sense that I was encouraged and I didn't have any particular preference either way. I didn't have an idea what I wanted to do instead, so I just went with it. In school to study maths and sciences, and I just did my dancing as a hobby. I really enjoyed it. It was active, it made me feel good. It's really good to feel in control of your body, so there's all these kind of positive aspects as well as all the bonuses from exercise, particularly when you're growing up and sort of developing your body. A regular exercise at that age is really good for giving you a good start and, as you get into older age, as it were, as I feel like maybe I'm starting to get to now. And so I studied maths and sciences at GCSE and then again at A-level. And then it just seemed to be assumed that I was going to do a degree in mathematics, and I never really thought about it. And because it's seen as something that is sort of, one of those subjects where it just looks good on your CV and you can go and do anything from it. Admittedly, a degree in dance would look better on a dance CV, but I think it is true to say that when I stick, BSc Hons Mathematics, European Studies, Dunelm, which is the full title of my degree, to put on my CV, it is somewhat impressive, and I can feel rightly proud of having that degree. And it certainly did get me my first couple of jobs. So when I was at uni, I started doing just temp legal secretarial work. And so sort of being a well-known, well-respected university just meant that, people kind of saw me as being competent and professional, and I didn't have the long hair then either. And then when I left uni and I needed to get a job, I just sort of went online and stuck my CV up. And some people got in touch. And I've always kind of been good at customer services. My dad used to work in customer services. He was a hotelier when I was born, and then he switched to customer services in sort of white goods or brown goods. So it's things like fridges, freezers, microwaves, washing machines, all that kind of thing, electricals and what have you, for a couple of different companies over the years. And so he would always kind of these little things like the customer's always right, and sort of when he was out and about, he would always be have very high standards about what the customer service he received should be and what have you. And sometimes it was embarrassing because he wasn't always very good at subtly giving feedback or inquiring or assessing as to whether feedback would be well taken. He would sometimes just... The word I want to use is bitch, loudly, and you would, when you're in a restaurant, you're just desperately praying, please don't spit in my food, please don't spit in my food. But I grew up with really good standards and a really good understanding of what customer service entailed, and so I fell into customer service roles originally, but in technological companies. So first of all, it was customer support, like telephone line support for Dixons and that kind of people. So if you bought something, you had a problem with it, you'd ring up on the warranty, or if you needed to get a part replaced or what have you, I'd be the person on the phone that was assessing what was going on and telling you what to do and sorting it all out. I lasted about 2 weeks on the phones there because the environment there was toxic. And I don't really hang around where I don't have a buy-in to the place. There was no sense of ownership. There was no sense of my team leader or my technical leader kind of being engaged when I asked questions. It was like, what's the shortest answer I can say just to get rid of you, or you work it out. So it's just like, right, okay, I've just started. Maybe you could give me some mentoring here, but no. So I left. I was on a temporary contract, so I only had to give a week's notice. So I did a week. I did about 2 weeks or 4 weeks of training. And then I did a week on the phones and realised that the job itself was just abysmal. And so I gave a week's notice, and that was it, I was gone. There was other things as well, like they were really awkward about taking lunch breaks, and the longest break you could take in any one go was half an hour, which for me to eat was not long enough. I was like, I've got a big appetite, I need an hour to eat my food and be able to digest and get back to work. And you could only take it if there was a break card available, and then it was things like if the bus got me over there late because it was over in Nottingham, then I had to stay late. I couldn't, even if I'd missed some of my break, because the break cards weren't available when I was off a call. Yeah, because the timing of it, you didn't necessarily always get all of your breaks. Then I couldn't just miss a break. No, I had to stay and log out that extra time afterwards, and they would check the time logs, and then that meant that I missed my bus home, so I'd be going home an hour later, and it just, all of it was horrible, horrible, horrible. I'm giving you my whole life history here, I don't need to do that, do I? But anyway, call centres. But from there I got into a software company that made software for schools, and this was database management software for schools. So everything you could ever think about data storage in schools. So it's pupil records, staff records, attendance, assessments, the official census returns the school would have to do, all the stuff to do with submitting who's doing what exams to the boards, and then processing the information back from them to confirm people are on the right exams, and then sending modular results back to the board, getting overall results back. All of this kind of stuff was all done through this one piece of software. Timetabling, oh, timetabling, what a joy that was. Particularly when the school would ring you up in late September, early October, like say now, which there will be people doing, ringing them up right now going, so my timetable, and you're like, school's been open for weeks, how do you not have a timetable in place? Yeah, it happens, folks, it happens. But yeah, so I worked there for about 4 years, and in the end I left again because I wasn't a good match anymore with the company. I really, really wanted to go in one direction, and the company just weren't interested in doing that, so it's like, okay, well, in that case, I'll leave. But I had a really good time doing customer service and stuff there. And for all of that, it's always, I was doing customer support, rather than service, I suppose, really, in both of those jobs. And it was all about asking the right questions, working out what the problem is, knowing what the solution is, communicating the solution effectively. What am I doing? Am I giving a presentation? Is this my CV? No! Whatever. Yeah, and I really enjoyed that. And that was, my maths skills definitely came into the fore there, because it was being able to work through things logically, methodically, being able to spot if somebody has made a logic error, or if somebody's given me a description, being able to visualize the system as a whole, actually, and understand what they're doing and what they're trying to do and how they actually ought to go about it, or how the system could better support it, or how they're not necessarily working with the way the system works, and all these kind of things. And I would have it all up in my brain, and I loved it. And after about 2.5 years of being on the phone lines, I'd worked my way up, and I was effectively what was called third level, which meant I spent a lot less time on the phones, a lot more time supporting all the other staff. So they'd be like, oh, what do I do? And they'd be like, right, well, you need to go to this bit of the menu, and then this, and then this, and then do this, and then do that, and then do that. Or you need to pass that on to so-and-so, or you need to pass them through to me. Taking complaints, which was so much fun. I love taking complaints, and people love giving them to me, because I just, that challenge of being able to take somebody who's really, really upset or angry or stressed because, like, I need this to work and I need it to work now and it doesn't work, and just being able to go, and everything's going to be fine, and you're calm. And when I was sort of audited, I suppose, on my customer service skills. The lady that came in and did sort of corporate training on it described me as unflappable, and I loved it because she came and sat with me for about 40 minutes, and in that time I managed to do one phone call. Because it was just such a complicated problem, and I kept trying things and I didn't solve it, and I kept trying things and I just was like, okay, that's fine, we've got other things we can try now, we've ruled out all of this stuff, So much fun, loved it. I really, really did enjoy that aspect, and if it wasn't for other things like not necessarily always getting on with management or the way the company was run, or feeling like a lot of the problems that we were having weren't trying to help people use the software, but we're trying to help people just understand the software, or the software was actually really badly designed or broken in places. And that really frustrated me, and I wanted to address that, and they didn't want to do that, and I was like, okay, I think I'm done here. And I'd move out of support at that point and was trying to move into development and product ownership and what have you, and it wasn't going to happen, so I left. And all of that verb is kind of, I suppose, to kind of go, well, yeah, I did. Well, here's where the episode's not being short, isn't it? Oh, never mind. I did really enjoy the analytical side of stuff, but I was never going to do maths as a career. I was never going to go on and be an academic, or say an accountant or an actuary. The actuary, if you're not sure what that is, they're the people who sit with reams and reams and reams and reams of databases use complicated formulas to work out things like what insurance premium should be, to make sure that the insurance company gets more money than it has to pay out. Isn't that a fun job to have? And it's all well-paid work because it's deadly, deadly boring. But I'm not the kind of person who's motivated by lots of money and will just do boring number stuff 9 to 5 to do that. I'm like, no. I will do interesting things as and when I feel like it, and I will earn enough to survive. That's much more my style. So I was never going to go into maths. I mean, I originally was going to go and do a master's in maths over 4 years. And after my first term, I went, ooh, no. I am not doing 4 years of this. Oh my God. So I was like, right, I'm going to switch and just do a bachelor's degree. But fortunately, and this is why my degree earlier was Mathematics European Studies, fortunately they had places open and were advertising and actively recruiting people from the maths course to go and do the European Studies course, where your third year of the course, it's only a bachelor's, so you do 3 years of teaching at the university in Durham, but the third year of the 4 years overall is spent abroad. So that's where I got to go and live in Strasbourg for a year. I became fluent in French, I made amazing friends, I learnt contemporary dance for the first time, which then became like a major part of my life. I was away from home, I was away from Britain, I was away from British culture. I'd just come out to myself the year before, and to everyone else. And I had this year of amazing exploration and meeting new people and having an amazing time, and it was the best thing ever. And then I came back and finished my degree off. And that's it. I was never really going to do maths ever again. And in fact, I would struggle, I think now, to really talk informedly about maths curriculum. The stuff that I've talked about, I've all had to go and refresh my memory, because it's just not stuff I use, the kind of advanced level stuff. Things that would have been useful that I didn't study are statistics. Statistics is a really useful, real-world mathematical subject. So if you ever are in a position where you're learning maths and you get to make choices, learn statistics. Yeah? It's useful. All of the kind of the crazy stuff where you have to learn all the formula and what have you, you don't have to memorise that stuff. If you need to, you can look it up again. But wrapping your head around how statistics works, getting to grips with how numbers are presented is so useful, because it's that kind of stuff that people are throwing at you in the media day after day after day, and being able to sit there and just look at it and go, well, that's a load of beep, isn't it? Is really useful, because you don't get sucked into, It's also really annoying when you start to realise that people are just, like, they'll make 3 statements, and none of them are related, but because they put them one after the other, it makes you think that they've somehow proven this last statement. It's like, no, they haven't. The data you present at the beginning has nothing to do with the conclusion you've tried to make at the end. Ugh. Anyway, that's another rant for another day, perhaps. Or just, I'm not going to go into it right now. But I still do mathematically inclined things. It's fairly obvious I'm a geek, and I do love the analytical nature of knitting and what have you, and knitting patterns. That might be English. But I don't do maths. So maths as far as a career it would be more technology. I've always loved playing with computers. I've always found computers easy to get on with. I understand them. I can pick up software really quickly and easily, which was very useful. Jumping at the deep end, trying to support a piece of software that takes a year for a support member to train on, but you support from week one. So you're doing lots of "I'll ask my colleague," and lots of intensive training at the beginning, obviously as well. Yeah, being able to really kind of understand systems thinking, complex systems. I love complex systems, and mathematics, a lot of it is about complex systems. I've talked about how you model, and then you take these models and you play around with them, and that's where the complex systems comes in, because you're holding all these ideas in your head, and you're moving them around, and you're seeing how you can twist them and make them fit and stretch and contort and substitute and all these kind of crazy things. And then switch from one way of looking at it to another until you can do something interesting or clever with it. And good mathematicians are just people that are able to do that intuitively or in their head and have a real good grasp of that, rather than having to sit and work it out by hand. And then once you've worked something out, you put it back out into a model that can then be used, or you create discoveries in mathematics that are useful for other mathematicians. But yeah, I was never, the academic life never particularly grabbed me. I want to be doing stuff. I want to be able to see the impact of my work, and I want to feel like I'm making a difference. Bit of a lighting change, just because the sun's moving around and it was starting to glare. But yeah, so as much as maths is really important to me, and logic and analytical thinking, and I love it and I geek out on it, I don't think it was ever really going to be something that I was going to want to take forward as a career. It's useful for earning money, and if I can find a way to use it to earn money to support me, then I may do it in bits and bobs, but it was never going to be everything. And interestingly, it's starting to come back into my career now. But yes, then when I quit that last job, I took some time off to try and decide what am I going to do, and I had some various life things happen, such as my mum passing away, and then dad as well, both of them from terminal cancer, and the depression that followed that. And whilst all of that was going on, I was working as a contemporary dancer. And that only really happened, again, because of other people sort of going, oh, you should totally do this. You could do this. Go and do this. People just tell me what to do, and then I go and do it. It's fantastic, you know. Why think for yourself? And so I was dancing in a youth group, a young adult performance group. I was about 21, 22, 23, and I was really lucky. I was coming into contact with professional choreographers through that process, which is something that I don't think they do anymore now, where I used to be dancing, which is so sad, because it was an amazing, amazing opportunity. And yeah, so as I was getting to know people, I was making contacts in the industry, and I was getting this amazing, wonderful, supportive feedback. Just kind of going, you should go and audition. You know, you're a male dancer, you're going to be wanted, and you're good enough to go out there and actually work professionally. And that was kind of like, oh my gosh, you know, people asking me, where have you trained? And it's like, I haven't, I just danced my whole life, and it seems that I'm quite okay at it. So yeah, I fell into it, and I did. I just kind of booked up the courage to go to a couple of auditions, and that worked, and through that I met a whole load of people. And then as soon as you start to meet people and get to know people and network, you know, dance is very much about networking. It then meant that when you went for stuff, you were like, hi, or people would suggest things that were good for you, or after only a few auditions, people knew enough of me, and as a male knitter, you're an unusual beast, and so if people had a project and my particular skill set, sort of more community based, so that means being able to work with different audiences, being able to improvise or do site-specific work. That was another thing that I was really, really into. I love site-specific, and what that means is rather than dancing on a stage, so your more formally trained dancers will often go on to stage work. I really like site-specific work, and that requires more, well, not more, it requires different skills. It's a different speciality. And so site-specific work would be something that I got a name for. And so when it came up, people would actually get in touch and say, hey James, there's this project, would you be interested? And at least would you be interested in auditioning, or even slightly further down the line, would you please come and do it, no audition necessary? And that was amazing. And so I did that for quite a few years. And to different levels due to things like depression and what have you. I would be more highly involved for a while, and then I wouldn't do anything for a while, and then I would try and get back into it again, and then I'd do another project, and then I took a conscious decision a while ago to just kind of put the brake on it again, because I was starting to not get as much out of it. You know, dancing for me was as much therapy as it was work, and it's amazing that it can be both those things. You know, it's working in the arts is fantastic like that, you know, and knitting similarly can be massively therapeutic, but that can also be the case whilst you're working in an arts environment. And so I realised that it wasn't where I wanted to be anymore, and that I was starting to struggle to keep my fitness level up with my depression, and so I was struggling to do the work, and I wasn't feeling confident, and I just wasn't feeling like I was going to be giving my best work, and I really don't like that. I don't like feeling like I'm sort of phoning it in, as it were. So I started to put the brakes on that, and now I'm starting to explore other ways of supporting myself. And the most recent one has been tech editing, which I've started to really advertise myself as on Ravelry. What's really nice is that's already started to pick up, and this is where I kind of think it's coming back around to my math side. And maybe I'll kind of circle around, and between the two I'll kind of find these things where they kind of mix my skills, my love of design and art and dance and systems. I mean, dance to me is a complex system. There's all these things, they do overlap. It's really interesting. It was fascinating when people kind of learned that I had a maths degree, and kind of to be able to kind of go, yeah, they're not actually completely separate worlds. I exist in both quite happily. It's not one half of my brain and the other half of my brain. It's both parts of my brain engaged in different ways in both subjects. There's lots of ways you can overlap them. And yeah, so with the tech editing work that I'm starting to do now, you know, that's very analytical. There's lots of sort of that love of numbers and fluency in numbers, and joy at working things out and checking things and being accurate, and my sort of geeky pedant side is getting to earn its way, as it were. But at the same time, it's in a domain that I really love, and that I do for fun, and I find therapeutic, and that I find a great sense of community in. So it's wonderful to be able to build on all of these things, and then the multi-layeredness of it, rather than having my work be something that's so separate to the rest of my life, which just wouldn't suit me. So there, I mean, it's a bit of a long-winded response. I've kind of just given you my entire work history. But yeah, it's a really interesting question, because I don't sort of fit into an obvious mould. And I kind of think that someone like Nathan would be able to understand that. He's said several times how he has his fingers in all these different pies. I mean, he's talking about this super secret documentary he's doing at the moment, and obviously he's a singer and a performer, and then he works at the theatre, and he does his knitting designs, and I'm sure there's kind of other little things, and he's kind of one of those people that has all these different sides to him, and I think of myself a bit like that. You know, there's these terms of like polymath or Renaissance man or woman, and yeah, there is that sense of being one of those people that isn't focused in one place, and that couldn't be focused in one place really. That I have to be tying things in all over. And so, yeah, I think Nathan would relate to that, and I'm sure other people do too. But yeah, so that's kind of how I get to where I am and how I'm going, and I don't know what the future holds for me really. I do think about sort of what work I could do in the world, what good work and what great work could I go and do in the world. And at the moment I kind of think of myself as still learning kind of to be in the world, so I don't think I'm in a position to do great work. It would require too much of me. But I can do good work. Great work, not to disparage myself, to explain what I mean by that, is great work is where you do something that is the essence of your being, and your calling, your vocation. Is that the right one? Vocation rather than career? I'm not quite sure. Anyway, but it's the one where you really find where you fit in the world, and you can give yourself into it, and you get as much back out of it, so that you can give and give and give, and it's amazing. And at the moment, I'm much more in a position where I'm supporting myself using my skills. So it's more of a job. It's sort of these little careers that I have, but it's quite difficult to explain to people in each of those careers how they overlap. You know, how does working as a customer support for a school software program for 4 years help me be a technical editor? It does. Or help me be a contemporary dancer? It does. Because I'm all about transferable skills. If you ever need your transferable skills working out, I will happily help you with that. For a fee. But being able to, again, it's all about being able to see the system and being able to see how things work, and then compare how these systems work and see the overlap, and kind of go, the way you do this in this area is the same skill as you would do this in this area, and all these kind of things. So do you know what, I think that's probably enough waffle on that subject. But thank you, Nathan, for giving me a question, because I've been really poor about, I'd had this big plan about trying to get conversation going between podcasts, and then actually the podcast for me has become much more something that I try and get done, rather than really have lots of time to do. I've realised that actually to have time to stay balanced and have other things going on in my life, and not just become completely knitting obsessed, which actually would be detrimental to my mental well-being for me. I'm not judging any of you guys, but I need other things to keep me balanced, and so the time I can really give to, and the energy I can really give to the podcast has to be encapsulated, which is why I went down to 2 times a week, and that I still struggle a little bit to really keep to that. And it's why a lot of the grand ideas that I have about the podcast, when I get very excited, sort of just, disappear off into quiet, and I never talk about them again. So things like trying to get conversations going between podcasts. I had this big thing a while back about doing a whole comedy sketch around rude bird names, and then all because of the Blue Tit yarn and the Bakery Bears podcast, Dan and Kay's reaction to the fact it was called Blue Tit. And I even did some of the work for it, and maybe one day I'll just kind of share a few funny ones with you or something. That might work. But I'm not going to do what I planned in my head. Was this how I was going to dress up in costume and I have a set, and I just realised I just don't have the energy to do it. It actually requires a lot of work to do things like that, and that's just not where I'm at. And I spend quite a bit of energy just sitting and chatting with you guys off the top of my head about random stuff, because that's how I am, and that's more me. So much as I would love to do this amazing show for you guys, I would need a team in order to do that. I would need to be one of many. I do not have the capabilities to pull that off on my own. Now, if anyone wants me to be the front man for a team of YouTube videos, then I'm up for that. So yeah, I don't think I've got any more questions, and if you have written a question into the forum and I've not picked it up since, I apologise. I will make sure I do all of that for the next episode after Yarndale. I have to admit, today I've just got to make myself sit down and record, so I haven't done quite as much prep work as I would normally try and do. That means that I don't really have anything by the way of a big maths presentation for you guys. I don't have any other random bits and pieces or segments. So I think I'm actually really going to just wind it down here. Thank you guys ever so much, as always, for watching. It's always a pleasure to sit and record, but it's surprising how much it takes out of me actually to do this. And so I have to just be careful about my boundaries, maintaining your boundaries. It's something that I have learnt about in therapy. And just being able to limit rather than just give and then be exhausted, which would be my old way of doing things, and it's not healthy or sustainable, guys. Don't do it. If you're the kind of person that just gives to stuff and then you collapse and you burn out, that means you need to learn about boundaries and saying no and setting limits. And so with that, I will set the limit of this podcast. Thanks very much, guys, and as always, I love you lots. Bye!